My boyfriend wanted me to become his personal maid because that's what a woman is supposed to do, he screamed. I need to start by saying I genuinely thought I was the problem. Like, actually, I thought I was lazy. I thought I was messy. I thought maybe I was just bad at being an adult. And then much later, I realized, no, I was dating a man who apparently believed he had accidentally been born in 1990 instead of 1939. We were both 25 and 30, and we'd been together for 2 years. We worked the exact same job, same workplace, same shifts, same stupid rotating schedule where sometimes you're working days, then nights, then evenings, and your sleep schedule eventually becomes less of a schedule and more of a hostage situation. It was hard physical work, too. So when we got home, we were both exhausted. Or at least I was. Because apparently exhaustion is gender-specific. He expected me to cook dinner every night, and clean, and unpack, and generally maintain the entire household, while also working full-time, sometimes more than 44 hours a week. Meanwhile, if I made myself something quick to eat after work, he'd get offended. Actually offended. I'd come home completely dead, throw something together, sit down, and he'd go, "You're not making me anything?" I'd be like, "What? I thought you were cooking. I made food for myself. Why didn't you make me some?" And I genuinely didn't know how to answer that without sounding like a malfunctioning customer service robot. So eventually I'd say, "You can make yourself something." And then he'd get angry, because apparently me feeding myself was somehow an insult to him. Then there was the liver soup. Yes, liver soup. I cannot stress enough that this was not some metaphor. He wanted liver soup. He kept telling me it was easy. You just have to try. I don't like liver. Just make it. Why don't you make it? And then he said something that I still remember because I genuinely thought I'd misheard him. "If I cook now, you'll never learn how to cook for me." What? Sorry. Come again? He wasn't joking. He genuinely believed that if he cooked his own dinner, I'd somehow never develop my natural ability to become his personal chef. I just stared at him, and he looked at me like I was being unreasonable. That's when I started realizing this wasn't really about liver soup. It was about what he thought I was supposed to be. He'd call me lazy, childish, careless, a slob, constantly. And here's the fun part. I started believing him. That was the part I didn't understand until later. I'm not saying I'm the world's neatest person. I'm not. I'll leave an oven mitt on the counter. Sometimes, apparently, this was evidence of a fundamental personality defect. I'd forget to put something away once and he'd go, "See, you're still a slob." And I'd immediately start apologizing. I'd tell myself I needed to do better. So I did. I tried really hard. If I remembered to hang the oven mitt up 99 times, those 99 times didn't matter. But the one time I forgot, there it was. Proof? Apparently I had failed the oven mitt character examination. 2 weeks after we moved into our condo, everything was still a disaster. Boxes everywhere, which, you know, happens when you move. Wild concept. Thursday night, I went out with a friend after work. He lost it. "You've been sleeping all day." I worked. "You need to unpack." "I've been working." "All you do is sleep because I'm exhausted." "And now you're going out?" Yes. I was going out. "Call the authorities." I told him we'd clean together over the weekend. He wasn't happy. So the next morning I got up and started cleaning. Immediately. No breakfast, no coffee, nothing. I just started unpacking because apparently I'd internalized his voice so thoroughly that I felt guilty for sitting down. And what did he do? He got up, walked into the living room, sat on the couch, then took a nap. I am not exaggerating. I was standing there, unpacking boxes while the man who had spent the previous night calling me lazy was literally asleep on the couch. I remember looking at him and thinking, "Oh, you have got to be fucking kidding me." I almost laughed. Actually, I did laugh. Just a little. Because at some point, the absurdity becomes too much. He wanted a 1960s housewife. Except he didn't want to be the 1960s husband. You know, the part where the man actually goes to work, comes home, and provides while the wife manages the home? No. He wanted the benefits package, not the job description. My friend kept telling me this wasn't normal. I kept defending him. He loves me. He's just stressed. His mom used to do everything for him. Maybe he'll change. That last one really got me. Maybe he'll change. Apparently, this is what women tell themselves immediately before wasting several months of their lives. His mother had cooked and cleaned for him until he moved out the previous year. So yes, he'd been raised with the expectation that someone else would handle everything. But he'd moved out. He was 30. At some point, you have to stop blaming mom and start blaming the adult standing in front of you. My friend posted about it on Reddit. I read the comments. People were telling me to leave. Some were saying this was abusive. I remember thinking, abusive? Really? Because I had this ridiculous idea that abuse had to look dramatic, like screaming, breaking things, something obvious. Not this. Not someone constantly making you feel like you're failing. Not someone making you question your own memory. Not someone turning every disagreement into a list of your character flaws. Not someone making you feel like you're lucky they're willing to tolerate you. So I sent him the post. I thought, okay, maybe if he sees how other people interpret this, he'll understand. That was optimistic. He read it and immediately said it was biased. How? You and your friend are plotting against me. What part is wrong? It's biased. Okay, but what's wrong? Nothing. He couldn't actually explain. He just didn't like that strangers weren't agreeing with him. Then we had a huge fight. He called me childish. Again. He said he didn't want to be with me anymore. And I panicked. Because despite everything, I loved him. That's the humiliating part. You can know something is bad for you and still want it. I asked him to go to couples counseling. I wanted to fix things. Because apparently my brain had decided that if I just tried harder, I could somehow become the perfect woman he wanted. We agreed to try. It lasted 2 days. 2. Then we had another argument. And somehow, the conversation became about how I was childish. He said he didn't want to raise children with someone like me. He said he'd have to do all the work. I remember sitting there thinking, you would have to do all the work. The same man who had taken a nap while I cleaned the condo. I almost said it. I really did. But I was too tired. He packed his stuff and left. And I cried. A lot. I hated that I cried. I hated that I missed him. I hated that part of me still wanted him to come back and say he'd realized he was wrong. Because that's the thing nobody tells you. Sometimes the person hurting you is also the person you want comfort from, which is a spectacularly cruel design flaw in the human brain. After he left, my friend came over. We talked for hours. And I started telling her things I'd never really thought were important. How I'd constantly check whether I'd cleaned enough. How I'd get nervous when he came home. How I'd rehearse what I was going to say before bringing anything up. How I'd stopped trusting my own judgment. How I'd started believing I was lazy. And suddenly she looked at me and said, "You weren't lazy." I just started crying because I needed someone to say that. I worked. I cleaned. I cooked when I could. I tried. I was tired. That's it. I wasn't failing at being a woman. I wasn't failing at being an adult. I was failing to meet an impossible standard set by someone who had decided my job was to make his life easier. And honestly, I'm still angry because I wasted so much time thinking I needed to become better. I didn't need to become better. I needed to stop letting someone convince me I was worthless. He wanted a housewife from the 1960s. Apparently, he forgot one tiny detail. He wasn't offering a 1960s life. He was offering a 2020 paycheck split down the middle with a 1960s wife attached. And personally, I'm no longer accepting applications for that position. Also, I still don't like liver. Some things at least survived the relationship, and that's where this absolutely ridiculous story ends. What would you have done if your partner expected you to work full-time, cook, clean, and basically become their personal 1960s housekeeper?